Light the beam quietly and respectfully, because it's time for Nerdy for 30 Book Club. Today, we present The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. We're going to be reading this book to you live and providing literary analysis and some in-depth insights that you might have missed in reading it yourself.
If you feel it, chase it. I think Ernest Hemingway was known for a little thing called iceberg theory. I vaguely remember this from high school, where, you know, the words are just the tip of the iceberg, just the top of the iceberg. And as we all know from the film The Titanic, which, you know, even if that wasn't a real boat, in theory, this could happen. A boat could hit an iceberg and you're like, wow, it's so tiny. There's like barely anything here. But then under the surface, that's where the substance is. You know, we're only seeing a little bit, but then it just balloons out into just so much more, enough to sink a ship worth of symbolism, I think. It's like a nutsack where it's like attached,
right?
You know, like a smaller point, and then just kind of balloons out to almost a preposterous degree and just dangles there, you know, kind of like underneath, just, you know, offering a lot more, you know, oomph than you'd initially think.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the original name for the iceberg theory was the nutsack theory.
Nutsack theory, yes. And it can hurt.
It's a sensitive topic for sure.
It's a sensitive topic, digging that deep, but I'm excited to do that and explore this with our audience, yes.
I'm excited as well. And as you referenced at the beginning, my name is Kevin Bauer, a.k.a. The Critic's Choice. With me, as always, the People's Champ, Tim Keck.
If you feel it, chase it.
The Old Man of the Sea. He was an old man who fished alone in a skiff in the Gulf Stream, and he'd gone 84 days now without taking a fish.
I gotta say, right off the bat, taking a fish.
Yeah.
Very erotic.
Very erotic.
Very erotic. I mean, my girlfriend reads all these romantic, very sexual books, I'll say. You know, we went to the store, The Ripped Bodice, and they
That's
just
the real
sell
name
all
of the
these.
store?
Yes, it's in Brooklyn. I would highly encourage any ladies interested in some romantic literature to go there. It's a welcoming community. I gotta sit with the boyfriends while all the girls talked about boning aliens and fairies and elves and I guess real people too sometimes. But it was a beautiful experience. And I'll say the word taking is very erotic in that context.
It is.
You know,
indeed.
He took her, taking her. And in this instance, the old man taking a fish. Now, we're only a sentence in.
Right. This could go either way, but
what are the chances this man's fucking these fish?
I think there's a decent chance. It's 84 days. It doesn't say, again, we're very early. This is first.
We're very early. I can't stress enough how early we are in this book.
I think that 84 days is enough time for you to not know whether he hasn't taken a fish out of lack of ability or lack of interest. It could just be that 84 days ago, he was feeling experimental and said, you know what? Let's see what happens. You know,
we all go through lulls, you know, like it happens. It ebbs and flows just like the tides. And, you know, in How I Met Your Mother, they would have made a whole bit about how Ted hadn't taken any fish in 84 days. You know, he would have been ridiculed. When I think, you know, in the real world, I don't think that's an unreasonable amount of time to not take a fish.
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, if we're being realistic, I don't know that I've taken a fish, you know, but I have never. Yeah, maybe that's the other thing here. You know, the old man who's in the sea. You know, maybe 84 days ago he met a fish and they really hit it off, and he had the opportunity. Maybe it's been 84 days. Maybe he's met other fish and they just haven't had the spark.
I do think there's also something kind of like aggressive about taking a fish. He could have been making love to fish this whole time.
Right. I think I chose
eye contact.
I chose the best interpretation of this, which is to say that, you know, it was very much a situation where they hit it off. It was passionate lovemaking in a way that, like, you would, you know, refer in the romance novel sense as, him taking. There could be a more negative read of this, but I'm going to focus on the positive here.
Yeah. And if you want to make love to a fish, missionary out of the question. The eyes are on the side of its head.
Yeah.
So you really have to pick an eye and roll that thing on the side and just try to put in as much sweet love and work as you can. I'm not speaking from experience here, just pure speculation and people I know from Florida. Also, he's fishing alone, in a skiff.
Well, it said in the first 40 days, a boy had been with him.
Oh, shit. Wait, that's the next sentence?
The next sentence in the first 40 days, a boy had been with him. Maybe we should keep going with
this and see what else we uncover. In the first 40 days, a boy had been with him. Ugh, right away. This is not where we want to be in a story about the old man. And this is like Ernest Hemingway's like best work.
Yeah,
revered, and right away there's a boy with him. Not my favorite thing. But after 40 days without a fish, the boy's parents, okay, good, they're around. I don't know what they've been doing letting this boy around this old man for so long, but the parents had told him that the old man was definitely and finally Salao, S-A-L-A-O, which is the worst form of unlucky. And the boy had gone at their orders in another boat, which caught 3 good fish the first week. That's a long sentence. I'll say that right there.
That's especially long for Hemingway.
Especially for Hemingway. That's 2 commas.
Hemingway writes in, how dogs age in dog years. That's kind of how Hemingway sentences go. He's got dog sentences where, 1 sentence for Hemingway, that's as much as you're going to get 7 sentences from a lesser writer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I like that he is minimalist with his word choice, which really lets your imagination go.
Exactly.
I mean, someone else could be reading this and not take any of the erotic undertones away from it. Yeah. Honestly, they could just be reading this like it's a story about a man and a fish, just going about their days. But this guy, the parents want their boy away from this guy and in another boat, and that other boat caught 3 good fish the first week. So what kind of fish are we talking? If you catch a fish, so they're catching fish.
Right.
Maybe they're picking up these fish. Maybe it's sexual, but I'm going to say that these people are probably fishing in this boat.
It seems like, if I may, it seems like what happened here is there was a boy whose parents wanted him to learn how to actually fish. They accidentally set him up with a guy who, by misunderstanding, thought he was supposed to be teaching this boy
how to
hook up with fish. Yeah.
Yes.
And the boy's parents have now said, after 40 days of them being like, why does he come home smelling like this? The boy's parents are saying, no, we wanted you to teach him how to hook fish, not hook up with fish. And the old man, they're clearly, I think we can agree on this being the situation, right?
Yeah. I really don't want to make this joke. But this is like an old street joke where it's like,
an old street joke.
This is a street joke. This has been said. I don't want to say this.
Say it. If it's bad, we'll believe it.
Okay. I just picturing this guy, hypothetically, this boy's going on this fish and fucking on this boat and fucking fish.
Yeah.
And then his parents, he comes home to his parents and like, why does our son smell like pussy? I locked eyes with Lauren when I said that. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. But you never heard that one? Did you ever hear that one where it's like the blind guy walks by the fish stand? Why does it smell like pussy? That's a street joke. That is a street joke. Not the first person to think that, but the idea of your son coming home smelling like fish, being like, God, son's getting so much action.
Maybe that is why the old man got into this business in the first place. Maybe he was just flat out confused.
Yeah, he got into it. He got into it for the fish, but then he stayed for the Is 3 fish a lot in a week?
I was going to ask you the same thing. How big are these fish? How many people are they trying to feed? 3 good fish in the first week. They're happy with 3 fish. Back in the day, would go fishing with my grandpa. If we caught 1 fish, we were happy, but it's because we were doing it for sport. Nobody was trying to eat this. And the size of the fish we were catching, nobody's getting sustenance off these.
Right. And I do get it. Like, I've been fishing a lot and I've caught a lot of bad fish.
Mm-hmm.
So I can totally see you going through a few fish and being like, finally, we got a good one.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, there was a lot of catfish. Oh, did I ever tell you about the kid who stepped on the catfish?
No.
When I was a kid, I went out fishing with my dad and my grandpa, and we were on this pier, and this kid caught a catfish. And you know, catfish have they have spikes like on their fins, and when threatened, they like stick them out. So it's like hard, you know, it's like a right angle, you know, like 90 degrees from their body, there's a spike. And this kid, to try and get the hook out, tried to step on the fish.
Oh God, no!
Spike through his shoe into his foot.
Oh,
like
God.
Literally, catfish stuck to the bottom of his foot. And then my grandpa held him down, and my dad took pliers and pulled the fish out of his foot. And then the kid biked home. So it all worked out. And anyway, I'm just saying that would not be a good fish. I'd say that's not a good fish. And so imagine these guys are just pulling up bad fish, stepping on them, getting spiked, getting stabbed, and then have to go about their day.
Yeah.
But 3 good fish. They're catching a lot. Also, how big are these fish?
That's the thing, is because, hey, look, if it's just the boy and his parents, 3 good fish in a week, that's not, because this is also, you know, we don't have a time period yet. I'm assuming this is pre-refrigeration.
Yeah, we don't know where they are. We don't know what they are. We don't know what time they are or when they are, you know?
I'm picturing this as being like Lauren and I just watched a while back, The Talented Mr. Ripley, and there's a part in that where they're excited because they get a fridge. And it's like a new thing. They don't even know. They're like, oh, should we get this ice box or not? They get the ice box. They're stoked.
They call it an ice box.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think these people have an ice box. So these fish, they're going to have to eat it fast.
Okay. Did you ever see the fish market like in Japan where they get sushi and they sell the giant tuna?
Yeah.
And they literally use like katanas to cut this thing up.
Yeah, maybe it's one of those.
3 of those in a little boat. That's a lot.
That's a lot. You can make that last.
Yeah, that's a lot. And those things are scary. They've got like spikes on their back and stuff.
Oh my God, they're huge. Tuna are so big.
I went
People
to
don't realize how big tuna are.
Monterey Aquarium, I think, and was it San Francisco or whatever? Read some Steinbeck book called Cannery Row about that area on the flight over. And the one thing I remember from the aquarium, it's like it's in like a little bay. So they kind of had a section where they had you could analyze the creatures that are actually in the bay, like live and like in the real world. And then they had this tank with tuna in it, and it was gigantic. And the tuna were just in a school, and they would whip around in a circle like a tornado. It was like watching Twisters. And it's just these gigantic fish just in a tube, just like going and going and going. And it's like, this is not what I thought at all. Like, this is the thing we get in the cans.
Yeah.
These are monsters. These are like horses, like galloping through the sea and just powerful, like beating the water. And like, yeah, I don't know. You just gain so much respect for the ocean, man.
Yeah. I do think tuna, chicken of the sea, I do think it's more of the horse of the sea. For sure.
I've never seen a bunch of chickens circling each other and thought, wow, that's a tornado.
Maybe in like The Legend of Zelda when you fuck with the chickens for a while and then
they'll anything that's hail, but I still wouldn't call it a tornado.
Yeah.
But that is fun.
It's crazy. They're so much bigger. I always just assumed they were tiny, but yeah, maybe 3 big tuna, I think, is probably what they caught.
Is that bit in Zelda like the best chicken bit there is? You got rubber chickens, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. If I'm making a joke about chickens in literature, I mean, I guess there are no good jokes about chickens. Chickens cross the road. But I do think one of the funniest bits you can do is if you harass a chicken in Zelda, all the chickens attack you. And that's evergreen, man.
Yeah, that'll always hit. I think maybe the only other good chicken bit I can think of is the Family Guy. There's that whole like famous Family Guy bit with Peter and the chicken. But I think
that's a good bit.
That's a pretty good chicken bit.
That might be better, honestly. Family Guy is pretty good.
Family Guy is pretty good. You want to watch an episode of Family Guy real quick?
Yeah, dude. You might be pause this pod.
All right, we'll pause this real quick.
Eat some lunch.
We'll be back in a minute.
Watch a couple episodes of Family Guy. Have a good laugh for the first time today. So Family Guy, as good as ever.
As good as ever. Yeah.
Seth MacFarlane, what can't he do?
Nothing I've seen.
Man.
I haven't seen The Orwell, but I hear it was a great show.
Oh, actually, you know what? The Orwell is good.
You have seen it?
I never really watched Star Trek, and it seems like it's exactly like a love letter to Star Trek with some more, interesting themes.
That's good. I think a lot of this old media, you need You need somebody with an interesting take, somebody who loved it but would love to see a change to it to take over. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened with the Orwell.
Even though it does seem like, because my buddy Pat is real into Star Trek, into the Star Treks, and it does seem like they address some pretty complex themes.
See, that's what I've gathered too. It's definitely, I think, cut from the same cloth as the Twilight Zone, where every episode they're specifically trying to dive into one thing.
Right. Like I think of it, I kind of brush it off as like a serialized, like, maybe the same thing. I was going to say Law and Order. Maybe the same thing is true with Law and Order, but you think once it's serialized and once there's that many episodes, they're no longer speaking truth to power because you think it's got to be the same product every time, whatever. But there's still probably some episodes where they're like, yeah, we're going to say something about society. We're going to hold that mirror up today.
Yeah.
Maybe shake them out of their funk, like I loved How I Met Your Mother and I watched all of those. And then there'd be one episode where like Barney's trying to reconnect with his dad and you're just like, what the fuck? Like Marshall's dad dies and you're just like, why? I've watched 3 seasons of this show and felt nothing. This was background viewing. Now I'm crying. Robin can't have kids. It's like, boom. That is actually a murderer's row. If you get, I don't know what season it is, but like back to back to back, Barney meets his dad, Marshall's dad dies. Robin can't have kids. It's like 3 episodes in a row where they're just like, fuck you. And it was great. That was amazing television.
You know what the through line is the whole time?
What?
Ted Mosby's on his bullshit.
Ted Mosby sucks, dude. Ted Mosby's the worst one.
Any episode of that show, Ted Mosby is doing some dumb shit.
Ted Mosby incredibly unlikable.
Oh, incredibly unlikable.
I feel like Lily also unlikable. She gets a bad rap.
She wait, hold on. She gets a bad rap or she deserves a bad rap. What are you arguing?
I think a lot of people I think she sucks, but I also think that people hate her for more of like sexist reasons.
Yeah.
Whereas I think she's just not always that nice a person. And Marshall is, it seems like, almost always trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And she's, I think, done some things to her that I would have said were deal breakers if I was in their relationship.
Yeah, she just disappeared in that one season, right? Like it is interesting.
She
where
just
it's
left
like,
him. Yeah.
Yeah. There are things where it's like, you're right that this is shitty, but you're wrong about why. Like I feel like that's pretty much any time there's a legitimately like, unlikable female character in something, just all the toxic dudes online are going to be like, yeah, well, she sucks because she's a woman, right?
I think I was thinking about, actually, you know what? Yes, relationships are weird. And I think when we're young, we're all dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you make dumb mistakes and you just assume that that's how everything is and that's how the world is. Like I remember I had a bad relationship when I was younger and I felt like I was doing all these things all the time, like making sacrifices. And then one day I remember this was a scene in How I Met Your Mother where Lily's like, we did all of this for you and you did nothing. And then Marshall's like, you left and moved to California. And she's like, how long are you going to hold that over my head? And he's like, you're berating me now. Like I haven't made any sacrifice. Like that was a big sacrifice. Like from where I'm sitting, we're both sacrificing, is kind of the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
And to then have somebody turn around and be like, what have you done for me? And I'm looking back and I'm like, well, I did all these things, I thought I was making good sacrifices, but we weren't communicating them and whatever. And then you leave and it's like, I can see how it'd be easy to be like, oh, women are like this because my experience with one woman was like that. And now I can generalize about all this other stuff. This is what relationships are like. This is my limited relationship experience. So this is all I have to go off of, going off of other relationships,
I could be generalizing here, but I think your limited relationship experience is still a lot more than a lot of the toxic dudes online have ever had.
I think that's fair. Okay. Now this I wanted to talk about because we did the When Harry Met Sally pod.
Yeah.
I think we talk about How I Met Your Mother on here a lot. I know I bring it up a lot for a show that I haven't watched in like 10 years.
Oh, it's been a while.
It's prevalent to me though. When Harry Met Sally, we were talking about like getting jealous in relationships.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, your partner's going to the gym. They start texting somebody hot of the opposite attraction, opposite sex. Are you going to be like, oh, this is weird. I need to bail on this. And the more I thought about that, I was like, and I think on the pod, I was like, yeah, I'd be jealous. But then in real life, I'm not. Like in a real relationship, in a real situation, it's never threatening because I guess, I feel like personally, listen, if you're in a relationship, you got to know what your deal breakers are. And if it's not a deal breaker, then it's not a deal breaker, like don't treat everything like a deal breaker. So it's like, listen, there is a line. If they cross it, it's over. But until they get there, it's all it's a conversation. So like, I don't feel threatened by that at all in real life. But when we were talking about it as a hypothetical, it was so scary to me. It was so scary to me. When I read a Reddit post and people are talking about this, I'm like, yes, this is crazy. Why would you ever let your partner do that? But then in real life, you're like, oh, of course I will. And I'm not even thinking about it. Like, I don't know what the disconnect is between real life and the hypothetical. Like something about the hypothetical makes me so, I'm anxious just thinking about the hypothetical now. Like I feel like I can feel myself getting anxious thinking about a hypothetical scenario where a hypothetical partner goes to a hypothetical gym, meets a hypothetical man. But also if my girlfriend did that, I wouldn't be worried at all.
Right, because she's a real person, In the hypothetical, there's too many, you don't have any controls.
Why are the hypotheticals so scary?
Well, also partially because all this stuff on Reddit, it's always like nobody's posting something to ask Reddit unless it's already so far past a deal breaker. It'll always be like, ask Reddit, and it's like, am I wrong to think that my husband might be cheating based on these texts? And the texts are like, do you want to come fuck again tonight? Like, it's so... There's such extreme examples. It's the same thing where I ended up in a subreddit called like identify this bug. And it's entirely people being like, or it's like r/what bug is this or something. And it's all, everybody's like, I think this might be a bed bug. My partner says it's just a beetle. What do you think? And then they post a picture of the worst bed bug infestation that I've ever seen in my life. And it's gotten so bad that all the people in the subreddit, they just immediately like have a bot that posts a link to the bedbug subreddit and just sends people right there directly to a link of like, I've just found out I have bedbugs. What do I do? Because every single person posting in the thing, it's incredible. Every once in a while, somebody will post a picture of like a cool, like a stag beetle or something. They'll be like, what is this? And everybody in the subreddit is like, thank God, a cool beetle. They get to rally around it. But other than that, nobody's posting anything unless they have a problem and they need someone to like corroborate the fact they have a problem.
That is true. I mean, that's what I use Reddit for. I only post when it's like, I actually need feedback on this, I'm on the Highlander Reddit for Toyota, the Toyota Highlander Reddit. Yeah. And I posted there a couple times, just like, what's going on? Oh, you know what it was? It was wiper fluid. Cause like I'm from Florida. This is a Florida car. And I drove it up. This is the first time I've had a car in the winter. And so I was like, what do I have to do to winterize the car? And I'm looking at the old, it's not the wiper fluid. It's like the engine fluid or whatever. I know a lot about cars.
Transmission fluid?
That doesn't sound right.
It's one of the fluids.
There's a fluid. It's when you buy a jug of something and you pour it in your car, it's one of those.
Cool.
And so I was like, what do I do? How do I know this is winterproofed, or do I have to take this in? And so I'm looking at receipts, and my dad had a receipt of when he had the wiper, the fluid changed, and it's like pink fluid. And I sent a screenshot of the receipt on there, and I was like, is my car winterized? Do I need to do anything about this? And people were so helpful and were like, hey man, that's pink fluid. Actually, Toyota dealerships use pink. The pink fluid is winterized. So that's like a common thing across all Toyotas. So you're good to go.
That's nice.
It was really nice. That was good.
Yeah.
Listen, you know what? Another Reddit thing that pisses me off. Actually, I don't think this is Reddit. Maybe this is TikTok. Stick Nation. Are you a part of Stick Nation?
Stick Nation.
Stick Nation.
Oh, like dudes finding sticks in the woods.
People find sticks and they hold them up and they present them.
Yeah.
Right. And I got to find who this TikToker is, but somebody held up a stick and they said, here's a lightly modified stick. And I was like, this is not a part of Stick Nation.
No.
This is not the Stick Nation I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Once we start modifying sticks, it's like, well, what are we just going to hold up things we've carved?
Yeah.
Whittling? That's not what Stick Nation is about. Stick Nation is about diamonds in the rough. And if there's no rough, it's not a diamond in the rough, man.
Yeah.
I want to see pieces of coal, air on the side of coal.
All of the beauty of a stick is in its potential.
Yes.
Nothing should be realized whatsoever. The whole fun when you're like a young boy of finding a stick is how much it kind of looks like a gun already.
Yes, that's the most important thing. Gun first, then a sword.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, because the gun's it's going to be shorter. It's going to be an easier find. You're going to find a lot of partial sticks. I still remember the sticks that you found when you and Breen and I went hiking when we did the Anthony Snows hike. And it ended up coming in clutch. We had the sticks mostly as a bit at the beginning until the hike hit a point where we actually needed to have some kind of a walking stick. We're like scaling rocks. You did modify them slightly, but
I
we
did
weren't
cut them.
posting
I did bring my pocket knife, and I did cut us some walking sticks. So it was a slightly different vibe.
But we weren't showing it off.
But I'm not putting that on Stick Nation.
No. I'd never.
No. And then you have to leave them by the side of the trail respectfully for anyone else who needs a walking stick.
Exactly.
That's just kind of the part of the walking. That's just hiking etiquette 101, I think.
Yeah.
If you whittle a walking stick, you got to put it in a place where it's reusable so that its sacrifice is noble. Like, you can't be like, what a truly jealous person to say that this stick is only going to hike with me.
Exactly.
Don't you want to create something and let it loose in the world so that it can have more experiences with other people and shape their experiences?
It's about legacy.
And I think that's what The Old Man in the Sea is.
I think so.
Did you say, wait, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say my friend Denise, shout out Denise, used to believe in something called the karmic umbrella exchange, which is she's like, I've lost so many umbrellas in New York City in cabs, leaving it behind at restaurants, but I've also found so many umbrellas that way. And she chose to believe that the number of umbrellas that she'd lost was roughly equal to the number of umbrellas that she'd find. In the end, the love you make is equal to the love you take.
That, again, seems like such a How I Met Your Mother thing, where it's just like all about this umbrella. Like, the world just keeps coming back to How I Met Your Mother. I do believe in that, but with tables and with seats at places in New York, where, like, I'm waiting online. I don't think you're allowed to overstay at a table.
No. Oh, God.
That's what I do. I don't like grabbing it early. I just think I get my food. When I have my food, a seat will be available to me.
Yeah.
And that's the way I want to live my life. But so many people camp at the tables. They do all these things, and I want it to work out. But I adhere to my code of not hogging the table, not getting there too early, not camping too long, in the hopes that that's the kind of energy that comes back to me.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful.
Thanks, man. Thank you. It's beautiful. Man, I feel great. I feel really relaxed right now.
It made the boy sad to see the old man come in each day with his skiff empty, and he always went down to help him carry either the coiled lines or the gaff and harpoon and the sail that was furled around the mast. The sail was patched with flour sacks and furled. It looked like the flag of permanent defeat.
Damn, dude. We're in it now.
We're in it.
Think of it. That's a fire sentence. The sail was patched with flour sacks and furled. It looked like the flag of permanent defeat. That's beautiful, man. You ever see like the poems on the subway?
Dude,
Yeah.
those are
there was one.
Those are great. That's something where it's so neat. Like, most of the stuff that you see when you're riding will be, an ad for whatever dating app is trying to blow up, or like food delivery, or like, for some reason, apps that are there to help you buy an apartment if you're a maniac rich person and you still ride the train, I guess. And then sometimes you'll look at the end of the train and you'll catch like 6 bars of poetry that make you want to weep on your commute.
I'm trying to do a quick Google search to see if I can find this exact one that I was talking about.
I wonder if it's going to be the one. There was one, I think, about wind that I read and reread, and I was like, that's awesome.
This one is, I think this is it. It's called Love in the Ruins, an excerpt from Invisible Strings by Jim Moore. I remember my mother towards the end, folding the tablecloth after dinner so carefully, as if it were the flag of a country that no longer existed, but once ruled the world.
Oh my God.
Isn't that beautiful? I feel like I'm going to cry right now just thinking about it.
Jesus.
Folding the tablecloth as if it were the flag of a country that no longer existed, but once, it's talking about the passage of time, and it once ruled the world. Like, this place where they had dinner every night used to be his entire world.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. That's great. That's kind of stuff you see on the subway when you're like there's a homeless guy trying to sit next to you. It's like bumper to bumper. You're squeezed in. You're jostling all over the place. You're holding onto the handrail, and you've more stops to go. But the person sitting in front of you, like, really has to get up while the train's moving, which is going to make you let go. So now you have nothing. Now two people just have nothing to hold on to while the train like bounces back and forth trying to come to a stop. And you turn to the left and you see something that beautiful. And man, dude, I think just anything where they say it's like a flag, I think that gets me, man.
Yeah.
Anything being like a flag, you got me there.
So I just watched the movie My Dinner with Andre for the first time, which is something that Danny's been trying to get me to watch that for years. And she's like, she became obsessed with it. She kept saying it's like nothing else that she's ever seen. We finally took the plunge. We watched it. I can corroborate. It is like nothing else that I've ever seen. It's a wild. Is
that like a Medea movie?
It's a. Oh, Tim, I wish. Oh my God, to see a Medea take on My Dinner with Andre. It's two people having dinner together in real time.
Ugh.
And it's scripted. The whole thing is scripted. It's a scripted conversation, but they're both acting so naturalistically as very slightly heightened versions of themselves that they got a lot of accusations of like just filming them having a very nice dinner. But it's this thing where they spend a lot of time diving into each of their philosophies on the world and life and culture as it existed back then. And it's wild. It's a few decades old now, and it's wild how much is still relevant today and how much you can kind of see the effects of the kinds of cultural changes they were talking about happening then and how they played out over the years now. But one of the guys gets in all these like philosophical flights of fancy. It seems like he has a lot of experience with like theater and with directing and writing plays and stuff like that. And so he seems like one of those guys that tries to stay very open, like how theater people are. They're very open to new experiences. They're very emotionally raw. They're taking every moment one at a time and doing the wildest stuff possible so they can have all these different experiences. And one of the ones that he talks about is having a romantic idea about making a custom flag for his family. And that flag will mean a lot to them. They'll take it with them everywhere. So when they go on vacation, they bring the flag and they hang it on the wall behind the bed. And when they eat dinner, they use the flag as a tablecloth and all these other things. And like the flag is supposed to always constantly be there. I think they're supposed to use it as like a blanket when they're sleeping or, as a tent when they're camping and all that stuff. And the only thing that I can think of with that, coming from like a God-fearing Catholic upbringing and watching a lot of demon movies out of fascination, the only thing I can think of with something like that is, no, you're putting too much psychic energy in that flag. That's going to be a demon. Like that's going to manifest something bad.
That's the kind of object that becomes haunted.
Yes.
Because there's too much emotional energy being siphoned into it. So it becomes a powerful object of
that's
like
an Annabelle.
Evil.
Yeah.
That's an Annabelle for sure.
The Warrens have that in their little haunted museum for sure. They got a bunch of family flags in that.
That family gets murdered and that flag just continues murdering families after that.
Yes. Oh my God. It gets passed down. It's like Amityville Haunting or whatever, where it gets passed down from curio collector to curio collector. And the same ritualistic pattern of murders happens with every person that owns that flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that traditions and stuff like that are interesting, but probably overplayed and probably, it's all like what you have attachment to. Like I think of like the last name thing a lot. Where it's like people get married and then it's like, we're going to take the man's last name. And now I feel like I have so many friends where it's like, we're not doing that. And it's like, cool. That seems very reasonable to do. But then I can see, I feel like there's so many Reddits I feel like I've seen where it's like, there's a family tradition where the firstborn son of each generation is named Robert and we're naming him Saul. And now everyone in the family is mad because we had to name our kids Robert, but you don't have to do it. Like that kind of thing where it's like, this last name has been through wars and it was all this stuff. And now you're just going to let it die with your family or whatever. Like, what are you going to name your kids? Like, we just make something up. Like none of this matters. It only matters if it matters, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not a real thing to be concerned about. Like a flag is just a piece of paper unless it means something or it's just a sheet. But I guess the context of a flag is like there is emotion and things associated with it.
Yeah.
And there's tradition involved. I don't know. Hyphenated last names, though, I'll say it, weird.
It's tough because it's like, where do you draw the line? Like, if two people with hyphenated last names got married
I think
and they
about
wanted
this
to hyphenate,
all the time. I think about this so many times.
do you go for a last name? What do you do there?
I mean, I know people who have like who are like, we're going to hyphenate our names for our kid. We're keeping our names. We're going to hyphenate our names for the kids. And I'm just like, you're cowards. You are pick a side. Pick a Tim. Pick a Tom. Because then it's like, okay, it's both our names. And then it's like, well, what if they get married to somebody? And it's like, well, then they can do whatever they want. And it's like, well, why don't you do what? I guess they want to do that. That's what they want to do. So I guess then now they have the option of stuff.
Yeah.
But it just seems like too many things.
I kind of like one that I kind of like, but would make things really hard on like genealogists
which is what our main concern is.
I'm always trying to make life better for them, because imagine having that much trouble even spelling what you do for a living.
Oh.
I like the idea of merging last names. So instead of hyphenating, like if Lauren and I got married, instead of going Bauer-Moore or Moore-Bauer, combining that into one thing, like either Bauer-Moore is one word, or like
That's
Moore
beautiful,
Bauer is one word.
Bauer-Moore is really cool, but that sounds like an erotic fantasy novel.
Bauer-Moore.
Well,
it is. That would be one where I would have to stop probably publishing those under that same name.
Yeah, there's elves. There's elves in that one.
There's
elves. There's a lot of human and elf interactions, and like a dark
human
glen,
fish.
Shady Glen. Yeah.
There's people are taking fish in these.
People are taking fish, and
elves are taking fish.
Fish
are taking elves.
I do like the idea of, somehow on the podcast, like convincing you to share opinions about your relationship that are news to Lauren. Like, I like the idea of her listening to the pod for the first time being like, oh my God, I never knew Kevin felt so strongly about kids. Like, I think going forward, I'm just going to try and wiggle in some like real powerful relationship questions.
Yeah.
just to try and get you in trouble later somehow.
I think that'd be good.
Because if you're not thinking about it, like, how often does anybody talk about some of this? I can't think of any other examples, but just food for thought. So again, watch your back going forward, because I will be stabbing it.
No taken. You want to kick off the second paragraph here?
Sure.
We're making some headway.
We're on the second paragraph of Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. The old man was thin and gaunt, with deep wrinkles in the back of his neck. What do neck wrinkles look like on the back of your neck? I guess so, yeah.
Here, maybe. I mean, do I have any? I don't think I have any.
No, you don't have any when you're standing up.
Interesting. Well, that's good.
But everyone has wrinkles when they,
like lean it back.
Yeah, when they lean it back. But you can imagine somebody walking around and they're just like an elephant's leg.
Oh God. Just like a
leathery skin on like folding on top of each other, cracking under the strain.
Like your elbow when your arm's extended, that as the entire back of your neck.
Like watching a leather couch melt, where like the leather slowly slides off and just crease on top of crease.
Do you think they're up and down wrinkles or side to side wrinkles? And they might specify this later.
Oh, they were side to side. Oh, I'm picturing side to side wrinkles.
So like
sure.
hamburger
like compression.
Style wrinkle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think side to side? Or you think up and down?
I'm thinking you're on a boat, right? You're scanning the horizon more than you're scanning, or are you scanning the skies more because you're trying to figure out what the cloud formations are looking like?
See, I have a theory that all wrinkles are a result of gravity.
Go on.
Which would just mean that it's all up and down. If you get, something's drooping, you age. Why do we age? Because gravity's been pulling on that face for years. That's why. You got frown lines or whatever. It's like, yeah, because gravity's been pulling that down. Every time you frown, gravity is like, I got you, and just drags it a little more than needed,
Yeah, when you frown, you're not actually activating muscles. You're just letting go and letting gravity take over.
Yeah.
It's doing the work.
I heard it takes less muscles to smile than it does to frown. Like that's something where they're just like, yeah, man, smile, it's easier. And it's not, because those muscles are working their asses off, defying gravity.
That's the thing. Yeah.
In defiance of, they have to fight the pull of the earth to try and move up my face in a reasonable way. I also just don't think you can be like, well, there's more. So that's obviously, there's more or less, like using quantity to decide if something's hard or not.
Oh my God, for sure.
Is crazy. We're moving, one couch or a billion M&Ms.
Oh, dude, did you ever see the movie The Stupids? with Tom Arnold?
No. Did I just remind you of this? Hey man, did you ever read the book Fucking Dumb?
The logical fallacy you're talking about is what reminded me. There's a thing where he needs to like catch up with something that like drove away real quick. So he runs to the garage to find a vehicle that will allow him to catch up. So first he's like looking frantically around the garage and he locks eyes on a bicycle and he goes, 2 wheels. And then he turns and looks at a car and goes, 4 wheels. And then turns a little bit more and sees rollerblades and goes, 8 wheels.
That's exactly what I was talking about. That's so funny.
It's
and it tracks.
Right
and it tracks. The brown blotches of the benevolent skin cancer the sun brings from its reflection on the tropic sea were on his cheeks. I gotta tell you, having a lot of friends and family in Florida, that sun will beat you up.
Yeah.
Will beat you up. Like there's definitely people there who are just like, old man, I've been shirtless at the beach every day of my life and I'll be damned if I stop now. Like that person, their skin hasn't burned in centuries because it's so dark and so warped that there's nothing left to burn. Like the edges are fried.
Yeah.
Like it would have to penetrate so deep past dead skin cells to burn anything fresh that he's just impervious, like an armadillo on the beach.
Yeah, it's basically all callous at this point.
It's all callous, yes.
Just disgusting. It's weird seeing, I know exactly the type of people you're talking about. It's odd seeing people now who are like our age and who have the start of that. Like they've clearly already tanned so much at this point that that's the trajectory that they're on. And it's like, maybe this looked good when you're in your 20s, but now it's like, you know where this road is going. You really want to stick on that road? Like, you really want to turn into one of those people?
Yeah. Like, you know, people are like, well, you get to a certain age in Florida and it's just like, you get skin cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at like the doctor's office, like history of cancer in your family. And I was like, Florida skin cancer. But no, so no. Like, no, that's not anybody's fault.
Everybody, but we're from Florida.
It doesn't matter. You can have perfect genetics. You get put on the face of the sun in Florida. Some stuff's going to happen, you know? It's not a fear.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about inheriting that, you know? I'll just stay inside forever during the deep winters of New York, man. I don't know.
Yeah. There is a New York version of that. There's people here that I think were like crust punks in the 70s and 80s. And now I call them barnacles. They look indistinguishable from like the stoops of the Lower East Side. They're like the people, I feel like we've referenced this 3 times on the pod already. You know exactly.
Pirates of the Caribbean too. The people that become part of the ship.
They just retreat into it. They like sit on these stoops and then they become one with the stone.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really wild. And it's like their face, they're like these like living statues. And it's so crazy. And like, it looks like, I don't know, man. It's wild. It's like all these people were clearly like punks in like the original, like, you know, Warhol 60s and 70s. And now they're just these like, they have this texture to them that's impossible to
They're
describe.
gargoyles. They're a part of the environment.
Yeah.
Now. It's nature versus nurture in real time. You know, like when a dog looks like its owner or vice versa. Like they're just in an environment and their body slowly evolves to fit into it. Okay. Does their body conform to the space, or do our perceptions conform to the time that they've been there? Like if you stay in a place long enough, do you change to become a part of it, or are you just a part of it because time has passed so much?
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, because I think there's a degree of it that is selection. Like I have been here for 12 years. I wouldn't have stayed here for 12 years unless something about Astoria really worked for me. And so
it doesn't work like, for anyone else.
Anyone else. I think it's doing that for me. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's doing that for me, but then I am also in some way, I'm sure, doing something for it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a symbiotic relationship for sure.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Brooklyn's a parasite leeching the life out of him. The blotches ran well down the sides of his face and his hands and his hand. Oh boy, I misread that for sure. You got to come at it with the right. You got to pause at the end.
Yeah.
The blotches ran well down the side of his face, and his hands had the deep creased scars from handling heavy fish on the cords. But none of these scars were fresh. They were as old as erosions in a fishless desert.
Fishless desert is a place that this old man does not want to be.
That's the last place he would want to be. I got to tell you, if you're creating a hell for this old man, it's a fishless desert, dude.
Oh, dry as a bone and
nothing to fuck.
Ernest has us thinking. I'll say that, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. He has us thinking about all kinds of stuff.
God, I think that's time. I think that's about as much as we have time for today.
That's as much as we'll do. Okay, so part 2 is coming.
Part 2 is coming
later this year.
Sometime later this year. Yeah, we're going to try to get through at least 2 more paragraphs of The Old Man and the Sea.
Yeah, we did 2 paragraphs of The Old Man and the Sea. I think this went well. So our book club assignment for next time is read the next 2. Or you can just wait for us. But if you want to get ahead of the reading, 2 more paragraphs in The Old Man and the Sea. 2 more
paragraphs. Thank you very much
page 3.
Yeah. Don't push yourself, but
don't push yourself.
See what you can do. Thank you very much for joining us here today on the Nerdy for 30 Book Club. We'll be back here again next week with something else. Until then, stay nerdy, everybody.
Stay nerdy. Bye.